Hello, everyone, and welcome back to sunny Alabama and the new episode of the TED Talk podcast, where I'll be joined by the lovely Jamie and Jacques Bermond Webster II. How are you boys
Hi.
doing?
Hi.
Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad. I'm feeling cool today.
Yeah, we can tell. You have a nice hat on.
Yeah. How are you feeling today? You feeling cool today?
I'm feeling. Yeah, I'd say I'm feeling really cool, even though it's really sunny outside. I'm sorry to everyone that's stuck in just looking at the screen from my point of view through my glasses right now, because I know this is what's happening with Trav as well. By the way, you know what? We can start this because we're gonna do a tier list for Group B of the European RMR later on. But we can start this with a tier list of our glasses. I suggest
Right.
we just rate each other's sunglasses.
Well,
So my tier list would have Ted ranked as S tier, mine ranked
yes.
as A tier, and then Trav ranked as F tier
Yeah.
because the square just ain't working out, bro.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know
What I will
what's on about that
say,
shit.
what I will say is that I got these because they're very cheap on a special offer, and I needed some. And also, what was the other reason?
I
Oh,
thought
but
you
I
just
agree with
hated
you.
it there.
But I do agree with you.
Man,
I
my
do
heart
agree
stopped.
with
I
you.
thought that his
think
camera just
mine
froze.
are too big for my head. Unfortunately, they're too big for my face slightly. So I agree with
Yes.
you 100%. And now I can't really see anything. So I think it's time to move on,
Yeah,
guys.
can I get these off? I can't see you fuckers
Yeah.
at all. Like-
Sure. Okay, we can do that. We can do that. Yeah. But
Oh, man.
yeah, pretty much.
Oh,
I don't actually know how we decided to have the glasses for the intro, but I think it was cool. We looked really decent.
it was funny. It was
Yeah,
funny at least.
I'd actually rate Trav's glasses a lot, because I think I used to have a pair of those when I was like 12, and I won them from like a snacks or whatever they were inside of the
Right.
package. It was the
Right.
same design.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's I kind of do want to just I'm embracing the looking stupid of wearing them whenever I wear them. So that's the goal for me. Anyway.
Yeah, before we start, gentlemen, I just want to embrace the fact that Faraz just joins the chat and just goes, "I'm so glad to see her out of prison."
Nice.
That
Uh,
works.
yeah, man of the
dear.
culture. But yeah, thank you for joining me today. Last week we did a podcast with Dragon Scriv, and we discussed Group A of the European RMR. Now all of us saw how this one ended. For those of you that are watching this episode from YouTube, today we're recording it on the 10th. I will try and upload it on the same day. So if we're saying, last week or 2 days ago, just so you're watching it when you're supposed to be watching it, I'll try and upload it today, so people can watch it before the start of the Group B RMR. But just to start us off, any thoughts, anything that left a really left a lot of feelings in you after the end of the first RMRs? We're gonna start with the European one. We're gonna get through the Americas and the Asian real quick as well later on, to just give it a bit of a summary. But starting with Jay, is there something that caught you? Well, there will be something that caught you caught you off guard in the Group A. But what was the thing that caught you off guard the most?
God save the king, bitch. That's what it didn't catch me off guard per se, but it made me very happy because there's a bunch of teams.
Oh,
that I
it didn't
consider to
catch
be
you
on,
off
like,
guard.
the
So you
border.
expected ITB to qualify for the
And
major?
no, exactly. Okay, right. There's a bunch of teams that sit on the border of me sort of like thinking, well, will they make it to the major? Will they not?
Yeah.
And ITB were firmly sort of within that bracket for me of like, I wasn't certain whether or not they'd be able to pull it off. I wasn't sure up until they actually managed to do it. One thing I certainly didn't expect was them going forward as legends. I thought they'd make it in at round 5, but they had a stellar run, and that's made me very happy as the UK boy that I am. I actually was hunting around my house today to look for Union Jack so I could just start wearing them up on stream, but I couldn't do that. So I think the result speaks for itself there for ITB. That's probably the most. That's probably the thing that I think caught me the most. I think in this RMR.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think that probably coming into this RMR, I was actually thinking that even though Viperio were on like a massive losing streak, at probably a pretty poor tier as well, I actually thought that Viperio and Into the Breach would have the same results at this RMR. I thought they'd both be 0-3 or at least 1-3. I think they'd only squeak one, be a 1 or something like that. And I just did not see ITB, just with the pieces they've got, to at least make it legends. I thought they'd make challengers if they were really going to push so far, but I think Cypher had a career-defining performance. Now he's on the lips of everyone.
Yeah.
Not just the UK scene as well, which is so big for him. Crucial after 3 years of trying on Endpoint, finally has something to write home about on a different team, hilariously. And Rylan, of course, who historically has been to, I believe, a couple of majors. I think he was on the Polish G2 team back in the day as well. And guess what?
Yeah.
He's back at a major. That's absolutely crazy, and I'm super happy for all of them.
Interesting thing, by the way, that I found out by Mr. Ronnie Wolf, the best editor the UK has ever produced. But he actually told me that and I double checked that Rollin is, well, that's the second time a UK org has qualified for a major, right after Vexed, apparently in 2014 or whatever. And Rollin was on that Vex team as well. It was one of the first majors that he plays in CS:GO. He qualifies with a UK org. And this is something that Ronnie told me. I was like, what? I had no idea that Rollin's played on UK teams before. So yeah, that's kind of crazy.
I mean, it's not a UK team per se. It was just I mean, if that's the case, then Fnatic would be a UK team in that sort of sense, right? Like,
I'd say Vex is more into the UK culture than Fnatic is, I guess.
I mean, yeah, I guess so. But back then it was very different because that was the Polish team, if memory serves me correctly.
Oh yeah, it is a Polish lineup, but it's another UK org, so it's kind of like, it's kind of funny how, because when you say Fnatic, no one just clicks in and thinks, oh, UK. People just associate it with, yeah, you do because you're from the UK, but I'm telling you from the perspective of someone that isn't. And
I know.
Yeah, Fnatic people just associate with the international success, and more so if you were to associate Fnatic with one nationality in CS:GO, that would be Swedish, I guess. And just Sweden as overall as the country. But yeah, it's really sick. I'm not gonna lie, I gave them no credit whatsoever. I gave them no chance whatsoever before the start of it, so I was a little bit shocked. And when I think about it though, I think that's why it's massive, because I don't think I'm harming anybody when I say that those players are not, on the highest tier of CS:GO, right? But if you qualify for a major like that, the last major of CS:GO, you do well. I'd say you top your peak. Like, this is your peak, the peak of some of those guys' careers for sure. Maybe not Rollin because he's played previous majors, but for the rest, definitely. And you're doing that straight before CS2 comes out, which is a new game. So I guess that helps out a lot for them to kind of get under the spotlight of a lot of people, get on the radar a bit more. And maybe they can upgrade themselves when CS2 comes out, right? They can land with a solid team. So I guess this is really massive for those guys.
I mean, arguably, you said that Into the Breach, tier. I'd argue that Into the Breach were a tier 3 team, let alone a tier 2 team, because tier 2 is.
Oh no, they are a tier 3 team. What I meant is like the individuals on the team are not the highest.
Okay.
Tier.
Yeah. I think the thing about these end times going into this last major is that we'll see the guys that perform really well in this cycle do well at the start of CS2. And so therefore I think it's massive, this RMR, for guys like Cypher, who, as you mentioned, has put himself on the map of the international stage. I think that there's going to be a lot of eyeballs looking for him, a lot of offers maybe rolling in for him from tier 1 teams, depending on how well he carries himself during the major as well. Like, I mean, there's a lot of intrigue around this team now from people who weren't even interested. So like, look, they've done so well. I don't know what their expectations were. If they, I imagine that that they would have expected maybe to go to something like a round 5, for instance. Again, I don't know for certain, but even if they hit that, I would have said that would have been mission accomplished for a team like ITB. So the fact that they've done as well as they have done, I think it's just both barrels loaded, and let's see what they can do in Paris.
Yeah, even if you hold ITB to a bit of a higher standard than you do for Viperio, right? I mean, Viperio out 0-3. Is anyone critical of them? Is anyone going and being like,
no.
You should have done this, you should have done that, I'm disappointed? Exactly, that's what I mean. So ITB, even though, individually and obviously as a team name, are a bit more famous, I guess, in the space, you still didn't expect them to qualify. So yeah, I completely agree with you on that one. I feel like for them, even if they were to just go out, bomb out 1-3, people would still not be critical of them, right? Because of the really hard groups right now. So
they've secured their future with the stickers, with everything. Like, they've secured their future into CS2 especially. Like, you're absolutely right. I mean, this could not be better for them. Thomas has been grinding. Like I mentioned, Crucial, but Thomas has been grinding away as well for so long. He dreamed of. I think there was an article that came out on UK CS:GO that he's been dreaming of this since 2015. So it's like It's absolutely wonderful for people like him to get just rewards for playing the game for so long. And I'm very happy for them, and I absolutely love, the pieces on the team, but that's not going to change me from putting them 0-3 in the Legend stage. That's all I'm saying.
That was the
okay?
first thing that came to mind, by the way. I was like, you know what? I'm really happy for those guys. I've watched, let's say, Volt is one of the first players that I've actually ever casted when he was playing on Vexed a couple years ago. I'm really happy for those guys, but then I go, 3-0 or 0-3 pick. Nice.
Yeah. It's likely, isn't it? But
you know what? It depends. If Greyhound make it through, I'm always betting on Greyhound to be my 0-3. I'm sorry, Dweg, but I always do, and they never disappoint me. By the way, every single time I put them 0-3,
it's funny because it's true.
Every time you pick Greyhound for 0-3, it's wrong.
I'm going to give him a bit more credit. If Bad News Eagles can do as well as they've done in the last 2 majors, then I think ITB can do as good, maybe. Possibly.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Maybe bold statement, but then again, I'm also biased as fuck, so
Yeah, completely. Yeah, that's why I'm saying I'm not saying anything right now because we're yet to talk about 500. So I'm just letting you go away with it right now.
Well, I've got some promises. I'm going to give you some hope when it comes to 500.
Okay.
Something I'm gonna say. We'll come to that.
I can't wait for it. Yeah, I can't wait for it. Outside of ITB and UKCS Pride, for those of you that for whatever reason have no idea what happened. Unfortunately for them, 1 win Sprout, Viperio Soul, and Virtus Pro actually bombed out. FaZe, Falcons, and Bait are going to be going into the last chance, and then we have Mouse OG, Apex, Gamer Legion, Bad News Eagles, Fnatic, and Na'Vi qualify as BNE. ITB, Fnatic, and Na'Vi are going straight into the Legend stage. But was there anything else that... Well, there is something else that caught you off guard, so I'm just going to shoot straight away. What you boys think about VP and what happened there? We're going to start it off with Trav this time around. You called it.
Okay, fine. I know. Yeah, I called it. I remember.
You called the fact that Norbert is going to get flight to Copenhagen 4 hours before the most
important
game of the season.
I never called that part. I never called that part. But I remember, and Trav, you were there for this. After Rio, when I did my post-show podcast, I said specifically, this feels so much like Gambit 2017, where they had that ridiculous run at the major. No one really counted them as being potential major favorites. They won it, and then they did sweet FA after the fact. And I just track what VP outsiders have done since the Rio result, right? Like what has actually
I want to counter that, by the way. I want to say, what have they done after replacing Norbert with Chiron?
That's another point we'll come to as well. But just in general, just look at the results we've had since Rio. The World Finals, dead last place, right? Katowice was a playoff spot, sure, but the first true opposition they meet in Na'Vi, they fall down, don't win a map. ESL Pro League, very similar story. The Blast circuit, the world leaderboard wasn't that great. There was so much, I think, that you could have done with VP after this, and they just didn't quite capitalize. They didn't do anything that they really should have screamed major champions. Because when you say major champions, you think best in the world, and I don't think that VP outsiders, whatever you want to call them, were indeed that at the time that they won Rio. I feel like it was a big sort of, again, like very much like Gambit were in 2017. Like it was I just didn't think it was going to last. And here we are in the RMR. They're not going back to the major.
Yeah, I agree. And I've got multiple things I could say about this, but I'll just keep it to one subject for now, and that's Chiron.
Yes.
I actually, Neo, my good mate Neo Kai, who's obviously been doing great at the RMR, I'm proud of him, but he's made good points to me in the past about Chiron, that every time he's left one of his former teams, that team has improved. Spirit Academy, improved. Aurora, improved. Had that 15 BO3 win streak at the beginning of the year. And now we're looking at VP. We are yet to see whether they improve or not, but clearly they did not improve with him. So all I'm saying, I know the kid's only 19, but it seemingly he has some issues integrating into squads like this. And obviously there is some other stuff as well that I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say on stream just yet, but all I'll say is, from what I understand, Chiron is not easy to play with compared to Norbert.
Yeah.
What I will say is that outside of speculation, why the fuck would you sub a player out midway through a tournament? Not even UKCS does that shit, right?
It's still silly, I agree.
I don't see what the logic is in terms of disrupting the whole team formation, right? Because at this point, you've practiced with Chiron. You've got the protocols down with Chiron. You've got your strategies and tactics. Your entire playbook has been practiced with Chiron. So why you would do all that, build him up, go to the RMR, and then before your elimination game, just subbing back in for Norbert. I don't deny that. I think Norbert probably is a better player. I do think, however, that from a team formation standpoint, that was a really fucking stupid move. And I don't understand what the logic was there from Virtus Pro. They talk about like some things in relation to like, visas and stuff. I'm not buying it, honestly, based on what I've been hearing behind the scenes. I feel like it would be extremely...
Did they say that was a visa issue?
That's the thing. That's the word. That was the word on the street, right? They said it was like, oh, he had a visa and it was going to run up before the RMR, so then they got him out. But then people were saying that he was at the hotel bar and stuff. So I think that's a load of bollocks there to cover off what was really going on. I don't know what really is going on, to be fair. But at the same time, I also think that like just that was the stupidest move you could have done in this entire RMR from any team.
Yeah, I think we can make an educated guess, right? I think what happened there, and I'm saying that, like, Trav obviously has some information. I have nothing. I've spoken to no one about it.
I'll paste you something later.
From the outside, for me, it looks really obvious. It looks like the team chemistry is just not there with Chiron. It just looks like...
It's not.
As a person, they don't vibe with him. That's what it looks like to me from the outside. Even though... Yeah. On paper, if you compare the two of them, because I saw a whole lot of those comments on Twitter saying, oh, Chiron has actually been playing well, he's been posting good numbers and stuff like that. Normally, I'm the last guy to look at the ratings, and I hate it when someone says, okay, this guy's got 1.15 rating, so he's not the problem. He might not be the problem in the server. You hate
Dwight then, don't you?
Yeah, he might not be the problem in the server, right? I mean, he might be doing his job in the server, but in the same time, it's the way that he reacts to certain things in game, maybe. This is the other part of it, right? Because one can be a really skilled player. He can have a really high skill ceiling. And in terms of firepower, I think he's better than Norbert in terms of firepower. But do I think that Norbert would sacrifice himself selflessly for the team in more occasions and would react really normally to that? Like, I don't think that Norbert gives a fuck if he's 0-20 if the team wins, right? But the case is not the same with Chiron. And that was one of the things that I guess worried me massively when I heard that interview of him saying, Tier 1 CS is not that hard. When you come into Tier 1 CS and you've never played Tier 1 CS in your life and you say it's not that hard, that means that you're yet to face off against the real trouble and real problems. Because believe me, if a person like Carrigan, who's been playing professional CS for 20 years and has won literally everything in CS, says that Tier 1 CS is hard, you're not better than him. Like, if it's hard for him, it's probably hard for you as well.
Yeah.
That quote has aged so poorly, by the way. And
yeah, I mean,
like...
I had to jump on that.
I had to jump on
it.
He just thinks that when he can headshot somebody, that means that it's easy to play on that level, which is,
Yeah. For sure.
Oh my god. That was rather funny, honestly. Sorry, go on, Dre.
It was funny. I just want to say, I want to just bring up one team as well, who's, something that's maybe a little bit sad, actually. And sad in a just sort of, I feel bad for you way. And that's Bait. Because I think they're going to have absolutely no shot in the LCQ because FaZe are there. And we've still got another RMR to play. And they've done the same thing as the Rio RMR, just worse. They were 2-1 in Rio. They lost to Sprout and Gamer Legion. Both of them qualified for the major. This time they were 2-0 and they just couldn't. They couldn't win a BO3. Same thing as FaZe, hilariously. They both went 2-0 to 2-3. And of course, we'll get on to FaZe. But I feel really bad for Bait because that was just... I said in the cast, in the Game Legion versus Bait cast that I did, I had the fortune to do that one for Rio. I said, listen, they've come so close. Is this team going to stay together? Is this team going to say, listen, is this as far as we can really make it? No. They stuck together. They stayed at it. They did so well again. Wrinkle is showing himself to be, once again, an incredible talent, as we all thought he would be. And again, they've slipped to this LCQ bracket where it really does seem inevitable that they'll miss out again. And I really feel for them. And now I really have to wonder, would they call it after that? And would they make changes? Thoughts on that, guys?
I mean, certainly the team itself, I wasn't always 100% convinced by Bait moving up the rankings. They certainly had their impressive moments in the tier 2 space. I think the only exception for that would be Wrinkle, who was easily the standout player for this squad. I actually remember, and this is very appropriate, when they lost their match to Apex, it was Sticko that came up to Wrinkle and like gave him a pat on the chest, just like,
do you know what the story is there?
Jackie, I remember Jackie was doing like some storyline thing on the commentary saying like, oh yeah, he's sitting there going, you're going to be a big kid, you're going to go far. It's like, to be fair, I wouldn't be surprised if that's what Sticko was saying to him. I mean, it must be heartbreaking for Wrinkle individually because fucking hell, what a tournament he had.
There's a story
man.
with Wrinkle and Sticko.
Go on.
Like
Oh yeah, no,
I
yeah,
saw
because
it.
they had history together, didn't they? I can't remember the details, but they had like
He was a
some.
kid.
Yeah, he was a kid.
got
They
it
had a picture
when he
when
was on
when
Hellraisers.
Stika was playing on Hellraisers. Yeah, and
Yeah.
Rinko was like, I don't know, 12, 13, and he had a picture with him, and it was so wholesome
cute.
seeing that he's gonna be playing against the person that
Very
he had a
cute.
picture with a couple years ago.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah.
Actually, that's not bad.
I'll grab that tweet for you. Actually, I'll send it to you.
Cool. I'd love to see it.
Yeah, it was really wholesome. But yeah, I think for Bait. By the way, every single time, because I think I've seen that happen with Forza and with Spirit a couple of times. With Spirit back in the day, obviously before they started qualifying for majors like crazy. But with Forza, it's happened a lot of times. You see a team like that start 2-0, and what's going through my mind is unless they beat Fnatic here and go through 3-0 and they're legends, they're not making it through. And I'm just telling myself that. And I know when you put it on paper, the Fnatic matchup seems harder than the ITB one, right? But for a team like that that's already been there, and this has already happened to you, you've been in a good position and you flopped it, you're starting to have those same thoughts on the back of your head, on the back of your mind, right? You lose one game, and then you're like, okay, but we lost to Fnatic. But this is what happened last time as well. We lose to a decent team, then we play against a team that we feel like we should be beating in normal circumstances. And I don't mean to disrespect ITB by saying that, because they did really well. If this isn't a 2-1 game, if that was a 2-0 game, I think Bait win it 9 out of 10 times. And this is only because of the psychological aspect of it. But, you know, a lot of ifs, buts, and maybes. In the end of the day,
So many overtimes as well. So many close games.
Exactly.
It was actually so painful. I'm just looking at it now. Like, the Bait match against Fnatic, they didn't get to overtime, but there was a 16-13 on the decider. Into the Breach game, 22-20 to Bait on Mirage. They won that one. But again, that has to take a lot out of you when you're at the stage of a tournament. And then you look at the Apex game on Vertigo, 25-23 to Apex. Like,
Such a bloodbath, man.
it's absolute bloodbath of not just results, but of emotion and mentality, right? Like, you're just going to be exhausted after all that.
Yeah, absolutely drained mentally.
Yeah, they got tested in this tournament, and I hope that they come out on the other side. Again, like I was saying earlier, right? Like the guys that do well here and now in this build up to the end of CSGO, I think are going to be the guys that end up doing well at the start of CS2 and set those foundations like the players of 1.6 and Source did at the start of a global offensive. In that sense, I think that Wrinkle's set himself up to do wonderful things. I think there's one positive to take away from Bait in this RMR so far. I concur with the idea that the LCQ is going to be extremely tough. But I think that if you had to airlift one player out of this team and have him be the next big call up, probably Wrinkle, man. Like, again, I can't understate how amazing he's done in this one.
When Simple retires.
Tanavi?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have another decent shout, by the way. I think we have a golden IGL in Bait. I think Captain Kurt come in.
Captain Jacket 023. I love Captain Jacket.
I want to see Captain Kurt come in. I really want to see him play on a better team. I don't know why, but to me he just looks like the Ukrainian bird from Sky. I find so many similarities between those two. They're both fucking crazy bastards. I'm not gonna lie about it. Like the way that they approach the game in the server, they're playing like they're crazy. But I think it's really entertaining. But yeah, I'm on with you on this one, boys. I don't think Bait are doing really well in the LCQ, but you know they've done enough to at least make sure that when CS2 starts, they're gonna be up there and they're gonna be given a chance from another organization, unless Bait wants to stay, which why wouldn't they? They have a decent team. But moving forward into it, I guess the other team that we have to discuss from this Group A, because I don't want this entire talk to be only about it, but there's no way that we overlook that, is FaZe Clan. And the fact that, you know, Bait start 2-0, they go down 2-3, we can have all of the reasoning behind them recognizing the situation from a couple months ago and not being able to, you know, find the mental resilience to close out their games and whatnot because of the lack of experience and blah, 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 blah. What do we make of it when it comes to FaZe's scenario, though? Because you start 2-0, and this is where tier 1 teams are supposed to be struggling, right? If FaZe lose a couple of BL1s and then start winning in the BL3s, you're going to be like, fair enough, you know? You lose the BL1s, they can be random. But they win the random games, and then when it goes to the BL3s, they didn't get the easy matchups, right? All right, they didn't have easy games, but they lose 3 in a row.
Yep, it's their own fucking fault. You win the BO1s, you win the BO1s, which is supposed to be the lottery, and then you choke all 3 BO3s and only win one map in all the 3 BO3s. I'm sorry, LCQ for you boys. I love you, but please just get through the LCQ and move on. Like, it was your own fault.
So I've got 2 stages to thinking of this one. The first one is, in round 3, if they had drawn anyone except Na'Vi, I reckon FaZe go through 3-0.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
Like, you know, I think they beat Bait. I think they beat Fnatic. I think Fnatic will give them a good shout, but I still think FaZe win every single day. On the second stage of thinking, though, the fact that they didn't quite make it that far, BNE fucked them again, lads, because they did the same thing at Rio and eliminated them from that.
No, they didn't do the same thing. 5. They actually 2-0'd them this time.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah, sure,
true.
fine. Yeah, but they've beaten him second time in a row. Like, FaZe, I don't know what happened to their confidence, because, Trav, you're right. I can't debate you on the point about LCQ is well-deserved, because, like, after Na'Vi, they should have beaten BNE, and they should have beaten Mouse after the fact. Mouse could be so proud with how well his Academy project has worked out, and in terms of beating out FaZe, because who would have thought that this team could have beaten a squad like FaZe? Like, what the... I have no idea how this has happened again for this FaZe squad, because I had some serious concerns at the tail end of last year about where FaZe sort of stand. Is that whole dynasty era, like, is this team project and its confidence coming to a close, whether you call it a dynasty or an era, whatever the hell it is? I thought that they were honestly going to bottle the Grand Slam, given how awkward that whole end times, the last few tournaments were for them. I genuinely thought they weren't going to win this season of Pro League. They did. And then I thought at the same time, like, my mind was switching back, you know, like, they're not going to win the Grand Slam. Oh, they just did. Now they should have no problems at the RMR. And then they have all the problems in the world at the RMR. So yeah, LCQ is definitely well deserved, but just, I don't understand what it is with consistency in modern Counter-Strike. I just feel like no top team has that at the moment.
Doesn't. You're absolutely right.
I'd say the
don't
most
think they do
consistent
either.
ones are Heroic, by the way, and people don't talk about this.
Yeah.
When you think about it, is the fact that they haven't been number 1, right? That's the thing. But they've consistently been a top 3 team in the last maybe year, which is really, really impressive.
Yeah. I think you have to. That's what I've said for a while. I said it with Jay on a few of his podcasts I've done with him. Like, Heroic and G2 are the only 2 S tier teams. Like, the only 2 that have kind of kept up there for a decent period of time. And you saw how easy a G2 and Heroic, especially toward the end of last year, and actually even, to be fair, toward the beginning of this year, they just wiped the floor with the teams in the semi-finals, right? Like, the Na'Vi wasn't up to date yet with NPL. Liquid was nowhere near the level to fight.
Oh yeah,
against those
Liquid
2 yet.
isn't an elite team, right?
No. I bet they made semi-finals though, like, pretty consistently. Liquid. So that just shows you that sort of tier was quite separate. And yeah, I mean, I actually thought the same of Mouse. I mean, I mentioned a couple of times on Twitter recently, like, Mouse coming into this year, they played the least maps of any team in the top 30, and I was worried about them because they lost to Fours pretty comfortably. I know it's an online event, but you have to take these results into account a little bit at least. And I was going into it thinking, oh, okay, I mean, they could very easily miss out here with the lack of games they played this year. They're not feeling too confident, and they lost the first opening game to Bait, and I was like, oh, I hope I'm not proved right. And in the end, I was proved very wrong, which is good, because Xertion has once again stepped up, especially in that game against FaZe, and proved that he's the real deal.
Yeah, you know, in terms of Mouse, I'm not gonna lie. I was when we did the podcast with Dweg and Scriv, I was defending Mouse a lot, because I think this is one of those scenarios, because I completely understand why someone sees Mouse playing, let's say 22, 23 maps. I'm not sure what the exact number was. The first 4 months of the year, and being worried about them, right? That makes complete sense. But I think in Mouse's case, the fact that those guys, when you think about it, have never had the time to practice with that lineup for a bit longer and actually find their identity as a team, right? Let's not forget, before the Rio Major, Exertion joined, like 20 days before the RMR. So he joins the team, they prac for like a week, they go into the RMR, they qualify, they go to the Major, then they play a couple more events until the end of the year, then this year starts, and they go, hold on, we need to actually spend some time in the server, practice a bit offline. And even though some of the results weren't decent for them, which I completely agree with, I mean, you open HLTV, you see that they've lost some games, but seeing the CS that they were playing in their last, I think, 3-4 BO3s on HLTV, I was actually quite optimistic for them. You know, I think they're starting to find their identity as a team. I think it's, obviously Exertion is playing really well in terms of numbers and that, but I think that has a lot to do with the fact that Mouse as a team starts looking a lot more comfortable. I feel like it makes more sense now, the CS that they're playing with the players that they have, and I think that right now they're discovering their identity. Again, I'm saying that for the 5th time maybe, but I think that's about it for them. So yeah, I guess if I had to fault FaZe on losing, I'd say that the BNE game was their game. But then again, when you say it's FaZe and they just won the Grand Slam, you should be winning all of those games, right? I'm not saying Navi played phenomenally well. I think Navi are going to be really solid at the major. BNE apparently are their kryptonite somehow, and they are upgrading. And
teams do have bogey teams. Look at Liquid and Pain, for example, in Americas. Like,
I think the issue with FaZe, and this is again, I said this at the tail end of last year, was just that this is a team that should be winning everything right now. Like they've got the GOAT IGL. They've got some of the best players in the world, some of which are on top form at the moment, and they're just not quite hitting that mark. They're not quite up to that same sort of level, and because they should be the greatest team in the world right now, we look at them and we treat them as such. So when they have failings like this, when they have issues at Katowice, when it feels like they're not going to quite win the Grand Slam, you look at that and you think, well, then you have to give them an appropriate amount of drilling for it, because we need to see FaZe winning these sorts of tournaments, and right now they're just not.
Yeah. Is the fact that they have they really have the most stacked lineup in the world. Even with G2, like G2 and FaZe play the exact same style of CS, but FaZe have Karrigan, which is an upgrade to Hooksy. Even though Hooksy's been doing a really good job, Karrigan is still an upgrade to pretty much everyone in the scene, right? So I guess it's really awkward, and I wanted to ask you this, guys, because the last time this happened was when they won the Antwerp major, and then the next major happens, and they fall off massively, right? They win the Antwerp major, and after that there was a lot of bad events for FaZe Clan until they kind of refound their form. They managed to win Pro League now. They win the Grand Slam. Does history repeat itself? Do FaZe just fall down after a massive success? What you thinking? We're gonna start it with Trav.
Yes, because I think with the end of CSGO coming, I would not be entirely surprised, even though I think for sure there'll be something in his brain that might say, oh, I want to try out CS2 and see how we go. Karrigan might be thinking, is it time to call it a day now? Like, I've had such a wonderful career. Maybe now is the time to move on. There are a number of players out there that he said himself that he has impressed him greatly. He's put Shuhei's name out there himself as a wonderful IGL that could be there for the future, and I've said for a while that I think that would be a great call to replace Karrigan on FaZe one day. So if he wants to say, let's call it a day after the end of CSGO's reign, I would not be surprised. And then we have to look at how long does it take FaZe to get accustomed to a different IGL or different players. Rain might say the same thing. If Rain might also have the same opinion of saying, I've got a kid now, is it time to move on? Is it time to stop?
I'd say it even makes more sense with Rain, to be fair.
Yeah.
Because he's been there for a longer period of time.
I mean, certainly for the team aspect, sure, but Karrigan, of course, been playing since 1.6, so I can sympathize with his position.
I'm talking about FaZe.
Yeah. See, I understand where you're coming from there with Trav, but honestly, I think Karrigan's got a lot more to give on the overall. Okay. I'm not sure whether he does that as an IGL or as a coach, and certainly if he hangs up his mouse and keyboard, he would have a great place, I think, standing behind the boys. Because think about what Karrigan's so good at, taking pieces, fitting them in, and making them work so quickly. I think the downfall obviously comes in later on during his team's life cycles, where things start to fall apart for whatever reason. We've speculated and people have speculated about why those reasons are. I do think the FaZe is coming to the end of that life cycle at the moment, and I think the results are proving it. Pro League is certainly, and Grand Slam as well, is an encouraging thing to sort of extend that life. But I wouldn't be surprised if changes were made to FaZe if they don't go make it through LCQ. And I think that one of the guys' heads might be on the chopping block, honestly, is Karrigan. Because it tracks with his history, and I hate to say it, but it is just a fact, right? I mean, think about what happened at Astralis. They did or TSM Astralis, whatever. They did really well under that TSM thing. They went to Pro League. They formed Astralis. Start of things wasn't great. Karrigan got moved out. Possibly. I mean, there's always going to be a team that respects him enough to think they'll give him a shot, because, and again, because what's his talent? It's coming into a situation or having a new element brought into a situation and making it work super quickly. If Carrigan gets kicked off phase, any team that's struggling right now in the tier 1 space, it's not quite a definitive sort of like, again, tier 1.5 sort of team would pick him up and instantly they would catapult themselves to relevancy in that sort of sense. So yeah, I mean, look, there's going to be squads like that. What Carrigan wants to do is obviously something that only he knows and only he'll want to consider. And again, as you mentioned, Trav, you've got to think about the end of CSGO, beginning of CS2 is around the corner. Maybe he transitions to a coach role, maybe he transitions to a general manager role, or some sort of like backroom staff element. Because I think he's got a lot to give in that sort of respect. As an IGL, I think it all depends on how this LCQ goes. I think it would be an absolute crying shame to not see FaZe at the last CSGO major, especially with the last year or so we've seen from them, how many titles they've had, how dominant they've been. I think that is kind of I think we'd get a worse major for it. So and again, it is FaZe Clan's fault, the fact that they're in the LCQ right now. But I hope that they do make it through LCQ in the end.
Yeah, I'm sorry to all the French fans out there, but I'd rather see FaZe play that major than I'd see Falcons play that major. 10 out of 10 times. Even though
if it's a
FaZe server now, boys.
Yeah, if it's a FaZe versus Falcons final, I'll actually be happy because then I'll be content either way.
Yeah. But
I mean, it'd be the biggest blowout of all time, but
but still, yeah, completely agreed. I think that FaZe just need to make it through. One thing that I think I'm gonna agree with Jay on this one. I feel like Carrigan is gonna stay for as long as CS allows him to stay on the top level. I would say that for him, he has to fall off drastically to make the decision of, you know what, I'm stepping away. I'm gonna become a coach, or I'm gonna take a bit of a break and I'm not competing anymore. I don't think he's that type of a person that's gonna kind of accept for himself that he's not capable enough to be top level until other people see it as well, right?
I think he knows, because after they lost to Mouse, I think he literally tweeted shit show, and obviously he's not talking about his teammates, he's talking about himself, because he went like -24 or something.
Oh no, he knows it. He knows it, but I think as long as he believes that he can bounce back, and he's done that multiple times in his career, I think he's gonna stay. And I'm judging by I listened to the podcast with Sponge and Moses, I think was the other one on the panel. And then, or maybe it might have been Yanko. I think it was Yanko. I think it was Sponge and Yanko talking counter with Carrigan from EPL from a couple weeks ago. And this is what he spoke about, right? The fact that he feels like now he's the most complete version of himself as an IGL compared to his time on FaZe before, and the Mouse time helped him out to find the leader that he wants to be. So I feel like for him, it might look a bit awkward and, as you quoted, shit show. But I think that right now he believes that he has it figured out. He believes that he knows what type of an IGO his teammates need him to be, and he believes that he knows what the formula is to win games. And I feel like he's not gonna. I hope that he doesn't step down soon, because I think that he has a lot more to give as well. Even if that's not on FaZe, even as you said, a team that's struggling right now picks him up to lift him up. I think he's the guy to do that. As Jay said, he's really good at just joining a team with 4 pieces and creating a phenomenal
imagine if he goes to OG.
Yeah,
imagine.
That would make a lot of sense, though, especially if Nexa doesn't rejoin. That would make a lot of sense for him.
Nexa to FaZe, Carrigan to OG. Hell, there you go. Easy solution. But no, joking aside, well, that may be like a little pipe dream in my own head. Like, OG, that's something that OG desperately needed. I'm actually really impressed that they made it through, considering their roster issues in that sense. To be fair.
Sick player.
Yeah.
You know what? He's actually really skilled. But with that being said, we're gonna follow the action in the LCQ. We're gonna see what happens there. Just quickly before we get into Group B and the tier list, because people in chat are already starting to actually ask us to start with it, but we haven't yet. Just mentioning quickly what happened at the Americas and the Asian RMR. I guess the Asian RMR, nothing to discuss pretty much. Lobanitsa didn't qualify, so I have zero interest towards it. But Greyhound and the Mongols, I guess.
I'm just sad for Rare Atom.
It's a bit sad, but in the end of the day, those are the 3 best teams in the region right now. So whichever 2 made it out, I guess you can say fair enough, right? There was no surprises there. You knew that one of them had to get eliminated. And in the end of the day, it was unfortunate because I believe Rare Atom's players had a lot of health issues during the tournament. I know Kaze had a sickness, I think, the first couple of days. So it was really unlucky, but, it is what it is. So Greyhound Thank you for the ult3, the safe ult3 if you make it into Legends. I hope you make it into Legends. I really do. But going into the Americas RMR, and I guess this is where we can discuss a couple things. Fallen is not going to be playing the Major. EG are not going to be playing the Major. Fluxo, Complexity, Liquid Pain, and Furia qualify. Anything that caught you off guard, or anything that you simply want to highlight, Jay?
See, not really, because I mean, look, I know that a lot of people were bringing up Paqueta. Honestly, I'm not 100% familiar with the team outside of Yell. So I mean, I could have expected someone like Fluxo, for example, going in as the key.
You know Destiny as well. You know Destiny. He played on not Complexity, but Luminosity a couple years ago. I think you've just forgotten about him, but you know him. You know him. I'm
sorry.
100%
I'm not
sure.
as in tune with South America as I am in the European scene. But like, you know, it doesn't surprise me too much to see Pain, Furia, and Fluxo being the three main sort of South American Brazilian teams.
Yeah.
It's great to see Liquid back, because I think North America needs a decent top end team. Complexity, of course, filling in as the second best as well. I think that's very encouraging that they made it in this time and they beat Imperial on the way to doing so, because that was something they struggled with in the last major cycle during the last America's RMR. That was the team that beat them in that famous overtime. This time they did it in 2-0, so Complexity on the uptick. So for the most part, I kind of like think it's pretty standard. And even Evil Geniuses going out is standard at this point. It's like, it's just not even a surprise anymore that this team is shit. So like, I don't even want to talk about them. So yeah, I mean, look, I think that I think it was a pretty standard RMR, honestly. I think that the right teams came out in the right places. It was a shame that Imperial didn't manage to make it. It's a shame that Fallen can't keep going at the majors. At the same time, though, I also think that those guys are just a bit washed as fuck at the moment. As legends as they are, like, just it's a team that I didn't think was going to work in the long term, and here we are in the long term. It's not worked. They're not going to the major.
Yeah. Trap.
Yep.
Anything? Trap?
My very short thoughts before we move on about Americas. One, Fluxo will be absolutely delighted they got Paqueta, because that's the only way they were going to qualify in my book. I like the team, but I think they're not really there yet. I might even decide to put them 0-3 in the challenge stage. MIBR are a better team than them, and they should have been there, but the draw just didn't work out that way. Simple as. Pain getting getting through is, I'm very happy for them, because they've deserved it for a while. That team was, you know, the Skulls and Zevi duo is incredibly talented, and I'm looking forward to seeing them on the big stage. Furia getting the Legends spot is, I would say, vaguely fortunate, because they haven't really been amazing as of late. But, you know, to be fair, they've looked better than Liquid, so I have to give them their fair dues, and I think it's the correct result overall.
Yeah, I think when you look at it, Fury haven't been amazing for the standard that we expect from them, but when you compare them to the other teams, and then they did deserve to be the legends out of everyone.
Yeah.
I guess you can make a point about Pain being a really decent team right now, but realistically, you can't compare the experience and the level of opposition that both teams have faced off. Yeah, there was something on the Fluxo topic quickly before we ended the Americas, because obviously we don't have a lot of things to talk about there. But in terms of Fluxo, I really like the team. I think they have sick players mechanically, individually. As a team, though, I completely agree. Paqueta was the only team that wasn't able and wouldn't be able to show that Fluxo have no strategical depth whatsoever. It feels like, I think it was Maui that put that on Twitter, Maui Snake. He said that for him, this looks like a team of 2.5k elo entries, which, you know, obviously it's a bit over exaggerated. But I think he's got a point there. I agree by, you know, the fact that I've casted a lot of South American CS, maybe not that much in the past 3-4 months, but back in the day, like the last year, I've casted a decent amount of it, and I've seen Fluxo play. And the reason they're dominating so much in the South American scene, for example, because they're winning all of the South American CCTs and cups, or I'm not sure if they're doing it now, but they used to win like 3 or 4 in a row back in the day. I think it's because individually they're just really skilled. But when you think about this team, when you play against more teams that are really good individually, but in the same time they're good teams, they have the depth. And it's not like they just have 1 or 2 rounds, a couple defaults, and then when something doesn't work out, well, guys, fuck it, we just spread around the map and we try and get solo peaks, and we just hope that we headshot people. That doesn't work against the best. So I guess the reason that Paqueta couldn't really punish that is the fact that they're not as good as a team as well, and individually they don't have the edge over Fluxo, so it's really hard. If they had played against, let's say, Pain, which they did earlier on, but in a decider game, I think Pain really well showed that Fluxo have a lot of things to work on in terms of the strategical aspect of the game. But yeah, they're gonna be happy that they're in the next stage. I guess if things go well for them on a certain map, they can pick up a best of 1. In a best of 3, I don't really see them picking up anything in the challenger stage, to be fair. But yeah, we're gonna find out, and it depends. They might get to play, I don't know, my face it mix, because those RMR have been extremely crazy. So you never know, right? They might be able to beat, I don't know, a Greyhound. No disrespect, Greyhound are playing the best CS they've played for the last couple of years, but I think this is the ceiling for Fluxo in a best of 3. Maybe a Greyhound on a good day.
Agreed.
But yeah, with that being said, I think we can start moving into what we've actually gathered up to talk about, and we're doing that at the 45-minute mark. This is this is nice. We're doing really well. Okay, 45 minutes, and now we're gonna start talking about Group B of the RMR. We did a quick summary of Group A, so now we have 16 more teams. 8 of them are gonna be making it through. And then a couple of them, 3 of them, are going to be going to the last chance qualifier for their chance to fight for one final spot. But you know how this one goes, ladies and gents. We have 5 categories. We have See You in Paris, which is pretty self-explanatory in my opinion. You have Should Make It Through. You have 50-50, Not Impossible, but Need the Stars to Align. And then you have Au revoir, which for those of you that are not speaking French, means bye-bye. Pretty much. And I guess, again, this is where you put the teams or the team.
There are 5 of those, right? 5 of the teams that will bomb out? Yeah.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, but it's not like we need to put 5 teams in Au revoir.
Oh, okay.
We can put only
enough.
1, only 2. Like, Au revoir is for a team that you feel like has 0 chance of making it through. That is just not going to make it through. So, in the last episode, in the last episode, for example, me, Scriv, and Dweck put Viperio and Legends into the breach in the last category. But,
of course.
Yeah. So, boys, I suggest we started off from the bottom, and then we go on the top, and then we're gonna start going towards the middle, because I feel like the middle part is way more tricky than the last and the first one. So initial thoughts, we're gonna start off. Everyone's gonna have a vote, and then we're gonna start discussing it. We're going through the last one. Au revoir. Jay, shoot me with a name.
Get fucked, Astralis. You're not going through. Get out of here.
I didn't expect that.
Out of here. Get the fuck out of my mage,
you know what, you bastard. This is my tier list. I'm not putting Astralis in Au revoir. No way.
I don't see it happening.
Jay just said that because Amiga 64 arrows in chat said, "You better not shit on Astralis, please." 3 sad emojis.
And then Jay says that, and Omega goes, "Fuck you, Jay."
No, but in all seriousness, I have serious doubts as to what Astralis can actually do at the moment.
Yeah, okay, but you're not gonna put them in the last category.
Look, I can't put them up much higher, honestly. Like, I think they're either in Au revoir or Stars Align, if I'm being perfectly honest with you. Like, I just think that they've been on a complete fucking downward spiral for the longest time ever. Like, what have they actually been able to do? They've won a CCT, or well, second place to CCT, then won another one. Okay. And what? They didn't make it to Katowice. They shut the bed in that whole circuit. Okay. And what? You know, Pro League, that was a group stage exit. Okay. Blast groups. Okay. I mean, look, that's like a partner exclusive thing, and they can somehow manage to blag their way through. They got it through in like what, the last qualifying place. And what? Like what have they actually done? What? Okay, fine. Okay, that was one result on an online circuit. What else?
Yeah.
What else have they done?
You know, I understand that. I'm going out of the fact that, you know, in the last couple months, I think I've heard more props for Astralis on Prax than I have for a lot of other teams. Yeah, but hear me out. I know what you're thinking, right? Obviously, it's another game that you're playing when you're pracking and when you're playing officials. But I think that Astralis right now are starting to play some decent CS, and they've been, from what I know, they've been doing a really good job at practices for the last, let's say, month and a half. And I think they're starting to
I'm
play.
sorry. I'm gonna
bit.
stop you there. I'm gonna stop you there. Practice means shit all in terms of actual like Counter Strike.
No, this is right. But when they've been shit at practice for the last year and a half and shit at officials, and then they become good at practice, this is something positive. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that Astralis are.
Sorry.
Ah, come on, boys. Okay,
I'm sorry.
you know what?
Practice means absolutely nothing because, like, no one's like, you're practicing to get better at the end of the day. You're looking to learn things. You're looking to try new things out. So you can say they've been doing great in practice. What if all the teams they've been playing in practice have been trialing a new player, trialing a new role, trialing a new strategy, trialing new positions?
Playing good in practice doesn't mean winning the practice. That's not what I mean. It means
that's the thing, though. But that's the thing,
team
though.
is playing well.
All these aspects mean nothing because at the end of the day, they don't contribute to tournament runs, right? They contribute to you figuring out how you can try and get better. And it doesn't really mean much, in terms of, because again, there's so many factors that could be experimented with during a practice session that I think that honestly, looking at practice to try and rate Astralis in any sort of capacity is completely pointless. You have to look at the results. You have to look at what they've actually done in tournaments recently. And outside of that Dallas European qualifier and outside of the Blast Spring groups, there's been nothing for me that says Astralis should be able to do much here.
Yeah, but those are the two most recent ones, right?
Okay, well, what about everything else? Again, went out in CCT in Central Europe. They had that one victory in CCT against Aurora, which, great, it's Aurora, but you shouldn't be letting tier 2 teams push you all the way. When you're Astralis, they went to Elisa Masters Espo. They finished in top 4. They couldn't get past Fnatic. They barely got past ENTS during that series. The group stage was a bunch of best of ones against tier 2 teams that you would hope that Astralis should be able to get past that, and certainly they did. But they should be at least in the grand finals because they're Astralis. What have they done? What have they done that gives them any evidence at any point to actually do anything in this RMR?
I'm gonna give my thoughts very quickly on this. I would like to profess my support for Astralis into the yellow category, which I can't actually read right now. Or the 50-50 one.
Okay,
right?
I will allow no higher than Stars Align.
I would go for 50-50. So I wanna hear out Trav, and then I'm gonna play the devil's advocate.
I'm going for 50. I want to have them in 50-50 because purely because I know you said this. I agree. I actually agree with you, Jay, mostly on all of this.
But why are you fucking putting them in 50-50?
No. Recent results. The actual very recent results is the only reason why I think they could genuinely. 50-50 doesn't mean I think they're going to make it. I just think it means it they could turn up and do it.
Yeah.
But the problem is, this is the most stacked RMR, and if they were in RMR A, I think they probably would have made LCQ, going by the results that we saw. I still think that they could make LCQ, which means it's a 50-50. So for me, I'm professing 50-50, but I don't want to. I'm leaning more toward yellow than I am toward 50-50, but I just think they've got more of a chance than some other teams we're going to talk about.
I just want to say, because I've watched a couple boxing games in my career or in my life. And I've seen when it's a lower tier boxing match and you have the people standing on the side that are going to be fighting next. And when you see a guy is really pumped up and he really wants to go in the ring and fight, he moves exactly like Jay is moving right now. He just listens to something. He's just moving around. He's trying to get comfortable. He's like, just get me out there. I wanted to.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
like
he's
that.
just hearing us say something nice about Astralis. He's like, just get me.
No, if I ain't fucking saying nice about someone I can't fucking say anything nice about. What, you want me to comment on their fucking ethics and morals and who they hire in their coaching slot? I mean, I could do that if you want me to. It'd be an outright lie.
No, that's not the point.
I've got nothing good to say about Astralis. I can't even say anything good about their fucking results. So what else do you want me to say? I don't think they're going to do well. At absolute best, stars align. They get a few best of ones. And they get 3 chances. They knock one best of 3
All right,
out
I'll
the
give
park.
you it, Jay.
That is
Take
the absolute maximum.
No, you know what? I haven't made my point yet. I'm still fighting for the 50-50. I'm fighting for the 50-50.
Oh, well, fuck you.
And...
Two people have agreed to compromise on Stars Align. You're going to keep fighting. Put it in Stars Align.
Yeah, because it's my podcast. Let's go.
I mean, listen, Stars Align, their logo is a star. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah,
it's the right place for them.
But I think that judging by, I think that in Stars Align, we're going to put teams that are just not on the level of Astralis, and Astralis deserve a bit more respect. And before you cut me off, because I know what you want to say right now, I agree. They've been shit for the last 6 to 8 months, maybe over a year, right? They've been really bad. They've been really bleak. What I'm seeing right now is Astralis that have 2 world-class players in Device and BlameF, which I don't think any of you can say anything about. Device has been playing well. He's hitting really good form right now. BlameF is the only person in the Astralis lineup that no one's had any critics towards his performance, bar the fact that, you know, a lot of people claim that he's baiting, but he's still playing well. Buzz is actually doing alright. He's looking like a solid rifler, and when you think about it, he is the only youngster that Astralis have picked up that has gotten a chance to play the game that he wants and not being an oper, right? They pick up Lucky. He's fucked up automatically. He has to replace Device. Not easy. Doesn't do the job. They pick up Farley. Things don't work out. But again, an oper. Apparently, if you're not called Device, it's extremely hard to be an oper in Astralis, and you're just destined to fail. The last rifler that they picked up, that was a new guy that was, you know, didn't have the experience, because we're not counting BlameF and Config for obvious reasons, was Bubsky. And they fucking annihilated his career, right? So Buzz is the first one that they pick up, and they actually let him play the game. He's doing well. I'm not talking about Glaive and Zip, because I agree that retirement should be the topic when you talk about those two.
I was about to say, like, you haven't brought up the 2 biggest problems in the team yet.
Exactly. I agree that they are the 2 biggest problems in the team. But Mr. as well. Yeah, but Mr. didn't stay in the team for a long period of time. He was just a stand-in, so I'm not really counting him that much. But and he's an academy player still. Even though he might become a really good player one day, he's still an academy player. But when you think about it, and you look at the last couple of results, Astralis are not playing bad CS. I've watched the games that we were talking about. You know, the couple good games that, you know, Jay said, yeah, but it's just a couple matchups, and before that they were still terrible. Yeah, I agree. But watching the games before that, and the most recent ones, I think Astralis are not playing bad CS right now. I feel like they're starting to figure out what kind of a game they want to play. On the T sides, that was a massive problem. They just looked really clueless in Pro League, which I absolutely agree with. I remember that Inferno game, I believe, by round 5, they already had run out of ideas, which is completely unacceptable for a team like that. But in the last couple of games, I really do feel like Astralis have something to offer. So that's the only reason I would put them in 50-50. I feel like, completely agree with Travis. If they turn up, they could make it through. No guarantee they will. There's a good chance that they fail it completely. But I think they can turn up and go through. Especially if Device and BlameF have a good tournament, which I'm pretty sure they will.
You can't just, I don't know. I think we've seen recently
are
that
you
can't
allowing me to
rely...
put them in 50-50? Or...
I mean,
No.
all I'm saying is that it's a 2-1 vote right now. So...
Okay. You know what? That's only because I want to show how democracy works. And I'm not gonna... I'm gonna go into not impossible, because normally, like, what it says on top of what everyone else is seeing as the tier list right now, it says TED Talk. So if I wanted to, but I'm not, because we're all about democracy here. So
all right,
I'm gonna listen
right.
to you guys.
Fair enough. Can I just say, I think iNation are quite decent, but can we just get them in au revoir? Like, right now, just to get that done with.
And I want to make a quick
I mean...
disclaimer, because Joyf is like a brother to me. I love this guy.
Yes, I love Choiv too, actually.
I know him
Good
personally. Guy. He's a really good friend of mine. I love him. He's a great person. I just think that iNation are not on the level of the other teams in this tournament yet. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah. Simple as that.
It's just one of those things when you come to an RMR like this, right? Is that because there are so many good teams in tier in the European scenes that sometimes you're going to get those breakthroughs, and they're not quite as you know, as well off as the other guys would, right? And iNation, I think, in the unfortunate position where they've had a great run at the qualifiers and they deserve the credit for making it to the RMR, but I think they don't go any further. It's the same sort of thing what we're talking about with ITB, and you say you're going to go 0-3 during the Legend stage, where it's like, well, they at least deserve the credit for making it that far. I think it's the same case in iNation. I just don't think that it's going to be a very good RMR for them, personally. So
I want to put Monty in au revoir as well. I think that while they may have qualified for Pro League, historically, these guys do not do amazingly on land. Sure, they've got the SDY factor now. He's been superb. Boris, superb as well. I think those two are still going to step up. But Moro2K and DemQ, they've not had good land performances in previous RMRs in the past. So I think, for me, that's an au revoir. I don't even see them making the LCQ for me.
Yeah, I don't see because I want to have faith in the talents, but I can't disagree with you on the LAN issue because the last LAN event I think that the core of these players have played was the last RMR.
Yeah, but
Yes.
it was a different lineup as well. They didn't have SDY. They were still playing with Red Star, right?
Was it core 3 at least, or was it core 2? I can't remember.
I think it was core 3. I think it was 3. They
Or a
had
Red Star Gel, thank you,
Demia, they had
Professor.
Red Star, and they had Boros, I think. Oh, they had
yeah.
Waro 2K as well. Yeah, they had Waro 2K, they had Boros, and they had Demia. That was the core. I'm not sure if Krasna was there.
No, it was Wara, Red Star, and Demia, I think.
Demia might have not been there, but I think he was.
Yeah, no. So it was core 2 then, because if that was just Wara and Demia, then that was the only guys there. But even then, like,
oh yeah, Boros didn't play because of his issues.
Yeah, because he benched himself, I think, at that time. So
oh yeah,
I mean, look,
right.
Yeah, I again, I sort of look at that, and I think that that's probably more evidence to the fact of the team itself, because as far as I'm aware, this 5 have yet to play on LAN together. So that's again another thing where it's like I do kind of lean towards that au revoir. The issue you've got is that these are some absolutely stellar players.
Yeah.
And Monty have been quite a respectable squad within the tier 2 space. They just won their last 2 CCT events.
15 out of their last 16 games on HOTV they've won.
Yeah, like that. I think the ultimate issue is that for Monty, it comes down to whether or not they can translate that success on LAN, and that's obviously not a very easy thing to do. Which is why I'm not 100% convinced at au revoir, but I'm also not like quite convinced at 50-50. So
did you want to compromise and put them in yellow then?
Yeah. Ted, you make the decision on this one. Are you
I want to put them. I'd put them in not impossible, but need the stars to align. And the reason I want to put them in there is because they have hella good individuals, and I know that SDY is gonna turn up on LAN. I know that SDY is gonna play good CS. I have no idea about Boros because, as you said, he didn't even play in the last RMR, so you could never know. But he's been playing really well. And the fact that those guys are the only team that's just running through smokes like Face It Puggers in tier 2 and beating the shit out of everyone. They're really skilled. Like, they're really skilled. If we talk about iNation have skill as well. iNation, tactically, I think might even prepare better than Monty for this tournament. But when you just compare the individuals and you look at Monty, I think we live in a world where Boros wakes up, drops 30 and 10 first day in the BO1s, they make the LCQ, or, you know, they get a favorable draw and they manage to make it through. I can see a world for them for that to happen.
Okay,
it's highly unlikely.
You know what?
But I wouldn't.
Here's my take on it, right? If my whole logic is that for Monty to do anything, they have to sort of like, they have to translate their success from online to online. Wouldn't that be the stars aligning in a certain capacity? That's just the way that I'm thinking about it. Yeah,
that would be the stars align, and they need their individual game to just go well. They need to ride the momentum.
Yeah, I'm put Monty in Stars Align, and I'm agreeing to that solely because of their online streak in Challenger League recently. Yeah. Because they beat 1-win Apex, and all the teams that are actually doing well.
Yeah, they qualified for EPL, which is decent.
Yeah, exactly.
I have a hot take for Au revoir as well, by the way. Another one.
Aurora.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah, I think
they're not what they were at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, I think they're the definition of a good team with, you know, some potential, but they had a honeymoon. They had a massive honeymoon period. Agreed. And, you know, sometimes when you're a team without any experience, because even if you compare them to, I don't know, who can you compare them to? You can compare them to, I don't know, another CAS team from here. You can compare them to a Forwards or a Spirit. Those guys have been in that scenario to play an RMR like that numerous times before. And you guys remember what was happening with Spirit and Forza when they were just having those sick, for Forza even more so, when they were having those 6 streaks online. Then they turn up to an RMR, they do well, they get a couple victories, they play good CS, but then they can't get it over the line. I don't see Aurora qualifying, even if they get a couple victories. And
agreed.
I feel like you can't even compare them to Forza because of Jerry and because of the tactical aspect. They're not a bad team. It's just too early for them to be in the contest, I believe.
I mean, it's very telling that their last true notable event success was the CCT that they won. And then other than that, it's sort of been a bit... I mean, yeah, they had Res East, which still was not a very successful event for them. So I guess that in that sort of sense, yeah, it kind of... It doesn't feel like they should be in any sort of contention.
They're inexperienced players, Lackey. So,
yeah.
Like online, I mean.
Yeah. So yeah, I
Like I
don't
know
see-
Norvi and Kenzie have been there before, and have played on fours and like beaten Astralis literally,
Yeah.
right? If I'm not mistaken. But at the same time, I yeah, I just think that their start at the beginning of the year was if they'd have kept that up in some form, I would have said absolutely. You know, I would call them, and we'll get on to 9. But I would say I would have put them on 9's level. Right now, they're not on 9's level. I think
Yeah.
Aurora will probably bomb out for me.
Okay, so I guess we're all of us are happy with those 4. I guess we can
Yes.
finish off not impossible, but need the stars to align, and then we can go at the top and see you in Paris. So I'm gonna go in next in line, and I'm actually gonna show you that I'm not biased whatsoever, and I'm gonna go for my homeboys. I'm gonna go for 500 and put them in not impossible, but need the stars to align. And
Okay.
the reason I'm doing that, first of all, I want to show you all that. I'm not just closing my eyes when it's about a Bulgarian team and saying they should make it through. I'm not gonna lie. This 500 lineup, and I said that we discussed that in a Bulgarian podcast earlier today with a colleague and friend of mine. I think I was more confident when I saw Fiend and Skate go into that RMR a year ago or 2 years ago than I am right now with 500. They haven't shown any consistency whatsoever, even though they're good players, and they're playing with 2 people in the lineup that have never played on that level, and one of them is their IGLs. So I think that if they turn up, they have extremely good players. Grashok's addition to being the coach, I think, adds a lot more depth, and they're playing with a lot more sense now. You can see that they're a lot more structured, which has always been a problem for Bulgarian teams. Their game makes more sense. Their game plans are more solid. They're playing good CS. Rainwaker's in good shape. Ships is in good shape. All right. Individually, they might be able to show up, but they haven't been consistent. And
Yeah, that's the issue for me.
yeah, I really can't put them in 50-50 and tell to myself or say to myself that I'm not biased in doing so.
Honestly, if it were me, I would pick them. I know you're going to hate me, but I honestly would pick them for au revoir. And the only reason I'd give you benefit of the doubt for not impossible need stars to align is because of their decent, acceptable land performance in Espo.
Oh yeah,
right?
they're a good land team.
That's
They've
the,
always
that's
been
the
a good
only
land
reason
team.
I'm happy with stars to align.
Yeah.
But if it were me, I'd put them au revoir.
I think the key issue with 500 is what they've done since Espo, because that obviously was a fantastic event for them, and you know they had that stage run, and that was obviously a big deal for them, because even at the time they were saying we're a completely new team, a new project, a new organization, whatever. But just since that point, since they've gone onto the online environment, they've won a Global Offensive Champions League, and then a European Development Championship, and then they've taken 1 top 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 top 8s in their year so far. Like it's not been all that stellar, honestly, for these guys. So like it's one of those things where it's like there's an angle in which you can make an argument, but it's not a very solid one at that. So yeah, I reckon stars align. I reckon that's probably the best place that you could pin them.
Yeah, and I just want to make a quick disclaimer. If they qualify, I'm gonna shit myself from talking about Bulgarian CS and how great we are. Like I know what happened with ITV.
I'm gonna hold you to that, brother. Like,
bro, if they qualify, I'm gonna be the loudest person you've ever seen, and I think there is a world that happens. Highly unlikely, especially considering that they're playing heroic in the first round. But yeah, okay. So moving forward, I think there's one more team that I would put here, by the way, and not impossible, but need the stars to align.
NIP.
I was gonna say Eternal Fire.
Okay. I was trying to read your mind like I did with the other one.
Yeah,
but the thing is,
I like NIP right now. I think
what I'm going to say about Eternal Fire is right now they are, out of all of these guys, actually, in my opinion, they are the hardest ones to call out of every single team because they did really well at the CCT LAN. Sure, the opposition wasn't amazing, but they still did really well. But Pro League was very up and down. They only really beat the teams they should have beaten. So
they're like gatekeepers right now.
Yeah, they're like the Fnatic games, for example. The 2 really close 2-1s they had against Fnatic, that showed promise to me. But it was against Fnatic, who, as you say, you use the word gatekeepers. That's exactly how I describe Fnatic, and a little bit like Eternal Fire. They are the sort of the gatekeepers of Tier 1, and they usually beat Tier 3 pretty comfortably. but they haven't played at all since Pro League. And that feels like such a long time ago now. Fours looked a lot better than them. We saw how well Fours did. So for me, I'm on board with Stars to align for Eternal Fire. If they had played more and shown more recently, like especially at Pro League, I would have wanted to put them in 50-50. But because they're the hardest ones to call, I can't really justify any higher than that.
Do you know what? I'm going to agree with you on that one, actually. Mostly because, like, these guys, they're a good team. Like, Eternal Fire are a fantastic
Especially
squad.
with Major now, they're playing much better CS.
Yeah, they're playing some really solid CS for the tier 2 environment, right? Like, you can bet on them to win any tier 2 competition you put them in, or at least to make a deep run against the tier 2 opposition. Like, think about the teams that they've lost to end their tournament runs. It's been 9. It's been Bad News Eagles. Actually, Bad News Eagles has been one of their consistent thorns in their side over the course of the year. I think the only other team that gave them any issues were ITB, who, as we just saw, it was legend stage at the last RMR and 500 in one open qualifier. So for the most part, like, it's really around that level or higher where they're losing out to opposition in that sort of sense. And typically, I'd say that gives them at least an outside chance, because there surely should be a few teams that they could beat in the RMR, right? Not this one. Not this one. This is the hard. This is the hard one. This is the hard one of the two. So for me, yeah, I'm Stars aligned for Eternal Fire, honestly. Yeah, like I could see a number of these squads beating Eternal Fire super easily.
If they were in RMR A, I think they were an absolute lock for at least LCQ for me.
Yeah, you realize we've said that for every single team in this RMR, by the way.
Oh, well, I know.
Bullshit. I didn't say that for Astralis. Astralis could get fucked. But for Eternal Fire, I'm with you. I would put them in 50-50 if they were in RMR A. So yeah.
Yeah, okay, I'll agree with that. The thing is, I wish we had one more Au revoir team, because there are literally 5 that will be eliminated without even making the LCQ. But look at the rest of the teams we've got left.
No way like, we're putting anyone in Au revoir. Yeah.
There's no way anymore. Like, who do you want to go to next?
I suggest we go for See You in Paris, because that's going to make life a lot easier when we get rid of the
G2 Heroic Cloud9.
Yes.
G2 Heroic
and Cloud9 are the most solid squads of the lot at the moment, so stick them up there.
Yeah. Those were the 3 that I was going to go for as well, so I don't think any discussion.
There's arguments for Vitality, but I prefer Cloud9
You know what? I have a hot take on this one, because we did a similar tier list in Bulgaria just a couple hours ago. I actually put ENCE in See You in Paris over Vitality.
Okay.
Which... I know that right now I can actually put them on the same level for different reasons, though. Vitality, obviously, is maybe the team with the most experience in terms of the lineup in this entire tournament, right? When you look at the players individually. Maybe they are the best if you obviously accept experience equals better. But the fact that in EPL, even though they made it into the playoffs and they didn't have a bad tournament, they actually played only one game with Dupree and they lost that game. When they were playing with Jax, they were doing a really good job. So I'm not completely sold on them. I know that they're a team that for them, every single time when they are playing a major, the rule of, they have those names and they're representing this name, it always works for them, right? They never flop it at a major. Yeah. For them to flop it at a major means them not making it into the playoffs, right? This is the worst we've seen from them at a major. So I'm 100% sure they will probably make it through. But in the same time, the fact that at EPL they played only one game with their 5 and they lost that game. I know that Dupree obviously had a pretty reasonable excuse not to attend the tournament. He's got a child now, which is the most beautiful thing in the world. But because of that sake, I feel like for some time as well, his focus is not going to be with the team and just simply CS, right? Because he's got a family to take care of, right? So I'm not saying he's going to play poorly. I just feel like Vitality are not going to be 100%, which for ENCE and the CS that they've been playing with Nerds, even though they haven't been beating everyone in the world, but the CS that they've been playing with Nerds and the fact that he resembles Spinks a lot more than Valde used to, and I feel like the team entirely is more comfortable with Nerds being in the lineup. I think that ENCE right now are a team that I just don't see not making it through, really.
Okay, so
on a personal though, I really want to see Vitality make it to this major.
Oh yeah.
The only reason being
they will
that
probably.
Dupree will be the only player to have made every single major in Global Offensive, and I think as a legacy, that is so significant for the history of the game.
Yeah.
And I imagine it must be for him. And obviously, he's got things to deal with in life now. As you mentioned, he's got a kid, he's got a family. So that obviously is understandable for him in terms of what he's been doing in recent times. But I think that it's heads down into this RMR, at the least to go into this next major and just get that spot, if nothing else. Because for me, I think that would be so cool to talk about Dupree in that sort of sense. So I don't think they're good enough right now to be seen in Paris. I think they are good enough to be should make it through though.
Yeah.
I was going to say exactly the same thing. For me, I'm going to go NC in Paris, and Vitality should make it through.
Nice. I actually don't believe that after the arguments that we had about Astralis, we're thinking alike so much.
I will say, by the way, because obviously we kind of brushed over the three guys we put in immediately. I want to say that I think Cloud9 have played their best CS since the online era. Like the fucking results have been so amazing, right? Like second place at Pro League, first at the Showdown. The Rest tournament obviously was fantastic. They were the next best team to try and win the Grand Slam behind FaZe when they got it. I think obviously Katowice was a bit of a shit show, but like, after that they seem to have just springboarded into some of the best gameplay we've seen from these guys since they went online, and I think that's translated over to LAN relatively well, and I think it will keep translating over here in the RMR. So yeah, I think that's like just something so positive for them, because when you think about the history of this team, right, and one of the key storylines coming out of the online era was, can they translate that online success to LAN? They struggled doing that at first, and now they seem to have found their rhythm here this year. So I'm excited for this team. I think they're going to do some things that we might not have expected.
Yeah, I think that Cloud9 at this point is just one of those teams that everyone knows that they're playing like a top 5 team, but it's just the lack of consistency and the fact that sometimes it just feels like they're just flopping games that they shouldn't be, that keep them on the edge, right? But they've always been, like, the past couple years, they've always been up there and being a top 5 team. Even if they lose some games that they shouldn't be, even if they play poorly on some maps and in some BO3s, they're still a team that should make it to Paris, and they're still one of the teams that plays the best CS out there. So yeah, I guess we can't call him I wouldn't call him an elite level team if we consider, let's say, a Heroic, a G2, a FaZe Clan elite right now. But I'd say, well, FaZe Clan before the start of this tournament. But I'd say that they're right behind them, and yeah, I agree on that. And I honestly have nothing to add on Heroic and G2, to be fair.
No, I think that they should. They're 100%. They're a see you in Paris every day of the week. Yeah, 8 days of the week they see you in Paris. Anyway, I have an issue with these last 5, because I could make an argument for every single one of them being in 50-50. So I'm gonna change it. I'm gonna spice it a little bit.
Okay.
And say I actually want to have 4s in should make it through, purely off Pro League form, and I trust in Jerry. Simple as that.
I think it would be a very low should make it through, though.
Yes.
Yeah, probably highest 50-50, lowest should make it through.
Yes.
Something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know what? Because we're not going to have a lot of teams and should make it through, I believe. I can just.
This is why I wanted to do it. Yeah, I wanted to have, out of all of them there, like,
there's one more team that I would put in.
Okay, well, Spirit for me are incredibly shaky, but they always show up at majors. So if you're going to want to put Spirit through, that's fine by me.
I was going to say NIP.
NIP, ooh.
Yeah, I'm gonna say NIP because NIP for the first time since adding config have had the chance to practice, and when you see their last, I'd say 4 to 5 BO3s, they've actually been playing some decent CS. After the open qualifiers for, I think it was IM Dallas, where they struggled massively, post factum they've been playing some good CS, and I feel like now they're starting to figure out, how to use their players, and Config is getting a lot more comfortable. He's played a couple nice games. Hetrick is a really intelligent oper, even though mechanically he's not the best. In terms of, knowing the game, he's a goated player. I think he's really good, really smart. I think that NIP are just progressively becoming better, so I would put them and should make it through, but I can see your point if you're putting them 50-50, but I still think this is a should make it through team for me.
In my right mind, I can't go any higher than 50-50. I'm sorry, Ted.
Yeah, here's my thing on it is that, like, you think about what they've actually done so far, and yeah, it's been getting better slowly, but it's still not tangible, right? It's that same thing about talking about practice. You can't use that because we don't know what the circumstances surrounding it are. And it's a similar sort of thing right here, is that we can talk about how they've, had the chance to practice here with their full 5. We don't know what results those are going to yield. What we can do is look at the year so far and say that for NIP, it's not really been all that amazing again.
Oh no, for sure. That's kind of
so
like
it's-
my feeling and my prediction of how things are gonna go. It's not something that I'm putting them should make it through, and I have a justified list of facts and numbers that confirm that and that support my statement. I just feel like they're gonna make it through.
Nah,
Okay.
I don't think you can do things like that, honestly.
No, I agree with Jay. 50-50
Yeah.
at most. I'm just
Honestly,
not confident in them whatsoever.
honestly, I could see all 4 of our last teams being 50-50s.
Plus 1.
Realistically,
Yeah,
honestly.
yeah.
Bigger nowhere. Spirit show up at majors, but I've had no results recently, and 9 are the best tier 2 team of the year.
Yeah, I
Simple
agree
as
with
that.
that. But 9, yeah, they are the best tier 2 team, but still a tier 2 team, so 50-50.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
happy with
on the
this.
point of 9, by the way, and this is where I'm going to do my little plug. So for those of you who don't know much about 9 and may or may not be quite aware of who 9 are, I've got a video coming out as soon as this podcast is over on the live channel, and you can check it out on YouTube. I have a 10-minute introduction to who 9 are. So if you're not familiar with who this team are, how they've risen in through 2023, and what they could do with the RMR, then you can go ahead and check that out on my YouTube channel as soon as this podcast is over.
And your YouTube
There you
channel
go.
is at the Eternal J.
Here you go. Yeah, you can go
Beautiful.
and check out the video. But yeah, I think I'm happy with this. I think for
happy
me,
with it too.
Forza and NIP, I'd say Forza are just playing. Well, they deserve a bit more credit for what they've been doing recently. So yeah,
Yeah,
fine.
I just want to say, like 9 for me. Like if they had qualified for Pro League over Monty, and Monty absolutely swept them, by the way, which is a shame because 9 were for me the favourites to win that game, and they just kind of got owned, unfortunately. They would have qualified for like basically every single meaningful event this year. Blast Showdown, IM Rio this year. This is IM Rio, obviously. Obviously they failed at Dallas, but then they would have qualified for the next Pro League as well. All the significant things that make you rise as a team from this level, they would have qualified for. And Jay, I'm sure your video is going to have all this sort of information in it. But Kylar and K, or Key, I'm not sure. I usually say K. They're 2 wonderful pieces of this team around since the Anonymous days. I mean, Kay had a stint on Sprout as well for a while. I always thought he was incredibly talented, and now he's got a chance to show that off. Hades is Hades. We all know what Hades can do. Minio is a not necessarily new, but new to this level IGL. So I'm a bit concerned about how he's going to perform.
Oh, he's
But
gonna perform.
every
Well.
other
He's playing
piece-
the best positions on CT side. Don't worry.
Okay, but either way, every single piece to this team I love, and it's why they've been so good at this level, at that particular level this year.
Yeah, I think the only issue for them is the fact that they have yet to go to that tier 1 environment, or like the true tier 1 environment. I think the only tier 1 team that only 2 tier 1 teams have taken on their lifetime has been Astralis and CCT, and then there was the Fnatic result at Showdown.
They played big as well at some point, didn't they? Or
did they? Oh yeah, no, sorry. So those are the 3 tier 1 teams they took on. They only won one of those games. That was against Fnatic. And so yeah, like I see that as being like I see that as sort of like being their litmus test, and now they've got to go into the LAN environment and do something here, which is why I think it's the key 50-50, because they've proven that they could theoretically do something, but it's one result in an online environment. So I don't know where 9 sort of stand in that sort of sense. So it'll be it'll be an interesting way to see where things go.
I agree, because there's a world in my mind right now, like looking at how 9 have played and what they've done in the online space and how they've qualified for so many things. Obviously, we all know LAN, completely different. But there's an argument for me, like looking at the teams here, I think that they've been more impressive than Big this year. They've been more impressive than Astralis this year, maybe excluding the Dallas qualifier result. They've been more impressive than Spirit on occasion, because Spirit have just been constantly losing at early stages of the events they're actually in. And I think they've even been better than NIP, because NIP have been an absolute mess. So honestly, I would not be surprised at all if they can translate any of that form. I know Jay's absolutely right. They have not played some of these bigger teams, but if there's one team that it's an unknown factor that even should be a should to make it through, it's 9 for me.
Yeah, yeah. You know, I must admit that I've been proven wrong about 9 a couple times. I'm still holding to my point. I feel like they've done a really good job of just having a really long honeymoon period as a new team. I don't know how they're doing that, to be fair, because in the start I thought after maybe the end of February I was like, yeah, they've just had a good month and a half. I think they just fall off, but they haven't fallen off. They've been playing some really decent CS, and I
They
like
do play
that.
G2 first game,
Yeah,
just to say.
yeah. But I think that one of the things that they've been really impressed by is the fact that they have a really massive strategical depth. Especially, I think I put a lot of time into their T sites on Nuke. The amount of plays, of different plays that they have with the same nades, the amount of fake defaults, the amount of variations on defaults on T side that they have on Nuke is absolutely crazy. And I know for a fact that a lot of tier 1 and tier 2 teams are stealing things from them on Nuke. So, you know, whenever you're that kind of a team that people actually get things from, you deserve credit, right? You're playing some solid CS. You're doing something right because you're able to come up with things and people are like, hey, you know what? I like that play. I like the fact that they can throw the squeaky smoke, they can blow it off, throw the smoke, and have 5 different rounds with that smoke. I like that. I like that, and you know, this is the thing that shows that you deserve somewhat of respect. So I will give them that. I think that for Hades, it's obvious that he wasn't able to find his comfort zone in ENCE, and then in Finest when he was playing internationally. Playing with Polish players is always completely different for him because he gets to actually play as the Oper that he is, and doesn't have to pretend that he's that hyper-aggressive guy that's just going to be running around. He has a lot of capable riflers around him. So, yeah, 9 are a decent team. I agree with that. I think that they have a decent chance to do well at this tournament. But bottom line of it, gentlemen, I think we were really happy with the tier list. And bottom line of it, there's a lot of teams that can do incredibly well in that Group B. This is maybe the most stacked RMR group that we've ever had. And I'm saying that, thinking about it, I think it is. I think we've never seen a more stacked RMR group. So I'm really looking forward to it. Thank you for joining me. And again, I'm going to give you some time to plug whatever you want. I know that Jay already did that, but you can do it again. So we're going to start it with Jay and then Trav. Just plug whatever you want.
Yeah, so my Twitter is at the Eternal J, my Instagram is at the Eternal J, my YouTube is at the Eternal J, and again, after this podcast is finished, I'll be publishing my brief introduction to 9 video, which is about 10 minutes long, but you guys can take a look at that. If you are not familiar, if you want to know how 9 got to this point today, then you can go ahead and do that. So yeah.
Trav, anything to plug?
Follow me on Twitter at TravCS. Some tweets occasionally do well, not sure why. Maybe I've got some magic touch, I'm not sure how. But more importantly, I'm doing some casts soon, and actually casts that don't clash with the RMR, incredibly. I'll be doing the IEM Dallas South America qualifier, so it'll be a late night for me, but there's some quality teams involved in that one. I think 00 Nation, Fluxo, 9Z, and INTZ, I believe, are in that qualifier, with only 1 spot available, and that's going to be on the evening of the 12th and 13th. So those are my next casts. Looking forward to that, and keep an eye on ESL's channels for that one.
Yeah, okay, so everyone, thank you for watching. The link for the tier list, by the way, is going to be in the description of this YouTube video for those of you that are watching it on YouTube. So you can go, fill in the tier list, and send it to me and tell me, Ted, you're a fucking bastard, you know nothing about CS. This is how things are going to go. Show the middle finger to all 3 of us. I'm looking forward to it. But yeah, in all seriousness, thank you for watching. Don't forget to obviously follow me on Twitch if you're watching this on YouTube, because all of those podcasts are getting live streamed on Twitch before they get uploaded. But yeah, thank you for being with us. Thank you for being with the 10K hours and Stillbot, Jamie, and of course, Jacques Bermond Webster II. And we'll see you soon. Have a good night.
God save the king.